Hello, I'm Reverend Tomas Garza, and just want to welcome you here really quickly to A Course in Miracles. And if you've joined me from the YouTube channel for Enlightened World Network, this series of videos that you're watching has been ongoing on EWN's YouTube channel for a year and a half. Now, it began as a live stream in January of 2021, and we did it that way for about 6 or 7 months. And at one point, I became distracted by the live comments and picking up the phone to check for live comments. So there were more than one. There was actually quite a few occasions where I thought, I think we should just pre-record this because I'll be able to speak more fluidly, which is another way of saying I'll be able to serve as a better mouthpiece for Jesus. I'll be able to serve as a more effective and, well, more powerful conduit for the Holy Spirit. There's nothing special about me, guys. This message is not mine, as in Reverend Tomas Garza. What's that? It's a title, right? What's the name? It's just a collection of sounds that we made up and ascribed to this, isn't it? It's not my message. Yet I share in its truth with you and everyone else. So in this spirit, because I never know who may be watching, I've continued to go through the workbook for students, which is how we started out this show. It's A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love on Enlightened World Network. And you may be joining me from my own YouTube channel, and I thank you for doing that for however long you've been watching. Some of you have watched these episodes regularly, and you may be watching it for the first time. If you're watching this for the first time, please do not become alarmed or turn this recording off just because we're at lesson 356 today in the workbook. In other words, we have 10 left. Please do not become alarmed at that, and don't think that you're not exactly where you're supposed to be. There's something that I'm going to say during this video. Perhaps I've already said it. Maybe I haven't. There's something that I'm going to say that you were supposed to hear, that you need to hear today. That's why I invite you to stay tuned, because even though you may never have picked this material up at all, even though you might be at a different place in the workbook, if that's what you're going through right now, or maybe you've done this in the past, there's something universal in every message, why this course is universal. The collection of traditions and practices that we refer to in the world as spirituality is universal. It belongs to everybody. Healing, which we're going to talk about today, is universal. It's everyone's birthright. It's not restricted to a select few. It may appear that way in the world, that people hold themselves out as healers, as ministers, as teachers, as reverends, right? Think, instead of seeing these people as somehow better than you, because they're not. I'm not, absolutely not. Instead of seeing them as more special, just think that they've answered the call. How people answer the call is going to depend, isn't it? The call is universal. Everyone hears it, not everybody answers. Those that are in what we consider to be a position of what we call, I don't know, authority, teacher-ness, right, have answered the call. That's all. Maybe you've answered the call as well, and perhaps you're on the verge of doing that. So how you go about expressing the love of God, extending God's love, is going to look differently. Why? Because there are different people that will respond to your message. I will reach certain people. You will reach other people. And you don't, incidentally, have to have a YouTube channel and a video series on A Course in Miracles. You don't have to hold yourself out as an instructor or a spiritual teacher or anything like that. It's not necessary. If that is, in fact, your path, then do it. But if it's not, then there's no need to force yourself into the wrong environment for you. The call is universal. Why? Spirituality is universal. So today's lesson is lesson 356. And, well, it reads as follows. Very powerful, very powerful. Sickness is but another name for sin. Healing is but another name for God. The miracle is thus a call to him. Sickness is but another name for sin. Healing is but another name for God. The miracle is thus a call to him. Perhaps you're meant to hear today that there is no sin, despite what you may have been taught, despite what may be blasted into you, because it's blasted into a lot of us in the world, this notion that we're sinners, that there is a hierarchy between God and us, that we're inferior, weak, nothing, we suck, we're scum, we always fuck up. Well, we may be running amok here in the world and getting in our own way pretty much at every turn when you think about it. God has no ego to be offended. And in our creation, and God is the creator, that much is true, we were created like him. The Bible says in his image. Well, God doesn't actually have an image, does he? He's not a man, nor is God a woman. God is not a human figure. I'm using the pronoun he. You can use whatever pronoun you want. What we're also taught at the same time that we're taught that we suck, we're scum, we're fuck ups and sinners, is often that God is love. Yes, to that. Completely abstract. Love extends itself. So in our creation, God simply has extended himself. Who we are is not the body, as we see in A Course in Miracles and as we see in other spiritual traditions here in the world. There are many ways of looking at the physical body, but at its core, at the essence of all spirituality, in other words, truth itself, it's not who you are. What we do in the world is we make it real And we spend our time attempting to protect and gratify it, don't we? But I mean, that's just what happens in the world. So, incidentally, a lot of people go astray on the path right here. There is a tendency to throw up your hands and say, okay, this isn't real. This isn't who I am. I don't give a crap what happens. I'm just going to let myself go. No. That's a dangerous attitude to have on the path. While you appear to be here, I invite you to consider how you are going to use the physical body for its intended purpose, to reach your brothers and sisters, to reach your fellow man, so to speak, to extend love and extend a healing message to everything that lives. The body, as we're instructed in A Course in Miracles, is a learning device for the mind. It's a communication device. We have to reach people in a manner that they won't be afraid of, in a manner that they can understand. Now, perhaps some of the things that I have said or that Jesus has said cause you to think, yeah, no, I can't go with that. Then no problem. You'll hear all of these messages in one form or another again and again and again and again. And that's what we do as teachers, isn't it? We repeat ourselves. Those of you who have watched more than one of these videos will find that I return again and again to the same themes as instructed, right? God has no ego to be offended. We cannot, even if we really wanted to, we cannot possibly give offense. We're one with God, we're one with everything, which means there's no self and other to offend. Think about it. When you're offended, it takes a perceived other person or other idea to offend. What? Your idea of yourself. That's what it is. So in spirituality, we're inviting you, we're inviting ourselves to see things differently. In other words, we're inviting ourselves to change our mind. Is this mind control? Yeah. We don't exercise that restraint. We don't exercise it enough. We don't use our power properly, do we? This is an invitation to you to do just that. If you don't know how, that's where you ask, isn't it? This is where prayer comes in. This is where asking your teacher, your guide, your guides for help comes in. Now, you can ask for help with very concrete, specific issues, such as what do I do with this? And then you can go beyond the specific to the general and pray that you may accept truth just as it is, that you may receive what is already given you in your creation. It's all there, and we've never lost it. We have just lost awareness of that. Spirituality restores that. The miracle that we're talking about here in this entire course restores that. I love the line here in lesson 356 that healing is but another word for God. The text of A Course in Miracles says to heal is to make happy. This is from part 5 of the text, by the way. To heal is to make happy. And what is healing but two minds, apparently separate minds, that perceive their oneness and become glad? All we have to do is to call on God. Incidentally, he always answers, doesn't he? Isn't that wonderful? It may not be immediately apparent either. So there are plenty of circumstances in life where we can say, well, I said this prayer and nothing seemed to happen. Yet we're not in control of the form or the manner of the answer. Remember, God doesn't deal in concrete specifics. It's abstract. So our answer might not show up right away. It might appear as a feeling, or it might appear as something that someone says to us that touches that place deep within us that we all know. You may read a billboard as you're driving down the freeway that touches the same place. I don't know. You may see a bird that reminds you of your innate beauty. You may hear a song. There are any number of ways that the answer may show up. We're not in control of how the answer shows up. We can't control that. Where we go astray, and we all know this, is attempting to manipulate the answer, telling God that he needs to answer our prayers in a certain way and not this other way, because this other way is bad. Well, instantly we've judged that other way, haven't we? We've also judged the way that we want it. So we see that love, God, is completely abstract. This is the natural condition of ourself. It's who we are. Does this threaten the ego? Yeah, of course it does. Jesus is fond of saying in the Course that the ego is right about one thing, that you will leave it aside. When you perceive its complete emptiness, its nothingness, you will leave it. This is what truth does. It is like a light that we flick on in a dark room. It literally cancels the darkness, not from a standpoint of darkness, you're an opponent. There is no opponent. Light simply is, and darkness and light cannot coexist. One is real, the other is not. Now, if you're saying to yourself, well, I'm not sure I believe that, no problem. If you're thinking of embarking on this remarkable journey called the Workbook for Students, and I sincerely hope that if you're watching this for the first time and you're just finding out, right? You're finding out about A Course in Miracles. There are a lot of you out there that are in that boat. I get these kinds of questions all the time. And you might find yourself thinking, well, I don't know if I really believe that. I mean, there's something about that, but man, I don't know, man. I don't know. No problem. At the beginning of the workbook, Jesus says that we don't have to believe these ideas. In fact, we may actively deny them. He comes right out and says that because, of course, it's true. Yeah. What's denying truth? Well, the ego is denying truth, isn't it? It's threatened. And incidentally, ego is always threatened. It's always afraid. It's a fear itself. So it will always seek an opponent. Perhaps today I'm that opponent delivering the message of love. Tomorrow, it may be somebody else. Hell, in 15 minutes, you may have concocted another opponent. It's what we do. This is very deep level stuff. Is it for everyone? Well, yeah. Yeah, it is. And here in the world, yes and no, right? Because you don't have to, in any way, adopt A Course in Miracles as your primary spiritual practice. This serves as an adjunct for a number of people that helps them clarify their own walk. And it is not, as Jesus is very, very sure to point out, this is not a religion. It is not a cult. It is not another dogma that people must believe in or else. That's not his message with this material. It's universal. That means universal. It applies to everyone. Why? Healing is everyone's birthright. That applies to everyone. Love applies to everyone. Doesn't it? Every single living thing is just as capable of love as you are, and they're just as worthy as you are. That perhaps the issue for you is you don't feel yourself worthy. Common enough, isn't it? Well, you are. I invite you to go deeper with your own spirituality, whether this involves A Course in Miracles or not. It really doesn't matter to me. I'm simply here to deliver a message. However, if you find that this material speaks to you and you would like some guidance and assistance, that is what I am here for. And I invite you to reach out to me. And if this is something that you use to augment your own walk in another tradition or set of traditions, right? Because we don't have to be limited to just one. So be it, right? So be it. What I invite you to do is to consider these ideas. If this is the first time you've heard someone say definitively, unequivocally, there is no sin, despite what you may have been told, think about it. That's all. Does it hit home somehow? Maybe it doesn't, and that's okay. My job, incidentally, is not to win any converts. That's not what this is about. My job is to simply show up and deliver the message. So as you think about the idea that there is no sin, that God has no ego to be offended, just kick that around in your mind and see, as much as you're willing to allow yourself to, see if that touches a place or stirs a place deep inside you that you cannot quite articulate, that you can't put your finger on. See if you just know this somehow. Just see. That's all that any of us can ever be asked to do. And when you feel that, whenever you do, you may not feel it in this lifetime, and that's okay. When you do, know that that is the call. It's yourself, with a capital S, calling to you to come home, so to speak. There's no place to go to. in the manner that we think of place and location in the world. It's inviting yourself to allow truth to be just as it is and to receive what has already been given you. It's your identity with a capital I. Read the prayer that accompanies lesson 356, and we find it is the name of God himself. Thank you so much. See you next time.